Hello and welcome to the Virtuous Life. I'm your host, Pat Odie Murray, and you may have noticed at the beginning of our show, our theme song has changed, and this was a change in the station, and so I wanted you to know, though, that you are listening to part of a song that my husband composed. All of you know that my husband was a composer, and so we decided to use some of his music to kick off my show and to close my show. So I just wanted to clarify that that's what you're listening to. But today, I am super excited. We have with us someone who I said to my brother this morning, I think I'm going to get to talk to a sister of a soon-to-be saint. And we have with us today, and I hope I do the names all correctly, Elisabeth Nguyen. She is the sister of Cardinal Nguyen Van Thuan. I think I said that right. And Elisabeth has kind of wrote with Father Stephen Leclerc a book called Man of Hope and Joy. It's just an amazing, amazing book about her brother, Cardinal Nguyen. Welcome, Elisabeth. We are so happy to have you on the show.
Oh, I'm so happy to be on your show.
Well, I'm going to get you started right off. I read the book. It's just an amazing book, and I have probably 5 pages of questions, which I know we won't get to. So I am going to just get you started by telling us a little bit about your family, your parents, your siblings. Just tell us a little bit about the culture, those kinds of things, to kind of give us a taste of how you and Cardinal Nguyen were raised.
Yes. Well, we, to start with, our ancestors from both sides, mom and dad, maternal and paternal, all our ancestors were converted to Christianity, to the Catholic Church, in the 18th century.
Okay.
By the missionaries from some is from Saint Anne de Beaupré, in Quebec, the Redemptorist Fathers in Quebec, and mostly is from the missionary of the Foreign Mission of Paris. And so, on my mother's side, they were in more like teachers and founder of Catholic schools. But in my dad's side is more of architect and builders of churches and convents and Catholic hospital. So we grew up in this atmosphere of extremely grateful to the missionaries and very attached to the faith. And on both sides, there were persecution, and both sides of my mom and dad, there were martyrs. One of them were canonized 1988 by John Paul II.
Oh my gosh!
And so it is for us something that we extremely proud and something that we hold on to despite all the difficulties that we have gone through. And for that, I cannot be more grateful to God for the faith. And that is something that I really want to tell the viewer, or the listeners of this show, that faith is just something so fundamental to humanity and to our peace and happiness and serenity in life. And so we grew up like that, in that atmosphere. And our family, we are 10 altogether, but 2 of them died in early in their life. And so there are really 8, but all of them have gone to God except myself and another sister in Sydney, Australia.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So my the way that we grew up was, the routine is just in Vietnam at 5:30 we have to get up because mass starts at 6 a.m. Because people go to work very early, and also because it's so hot And the churches don't have air conditioning like in our North America.
That's right.
And I remember at 5:30, Mom is the one who wakes all of us up and then help us get ready. And then off we walk to church, which is about, 3 kilometers or 2 kilometers, but we all walk. And as we walk to church, Mom would tell us on about, how to be respectful in church, remind us, that after communion, you need to have some time to speak to Jesus. And so that we grew up like that every single day of our life until we departed for school in different cities or different countries. And my brother always said to us, "Oh, I never forget. Every time I go someplace and I smell the orange flowers blossom, I remember early in the morning. That's when the orange blossom opened, and that's when we walk to church with Mom." He always remembers that.
Oh, how amazing. Now, your mother seemed to have played a real role, as did your aunt, is it Jiao? That
Yes.
they kind of had a specific effect on your brother's faith and formation, especially regarding the Eucharist and the care for the poor and the sick. Can you give us some insight into how they did that?
Well, I remember walking to church, and to go to that cathedral, there are at least 15 steps to walk up because, we are so worried about a flooding. So all the churches, there are steps to go up. And the beggars will be sitting on those steps, waiting for people who go to church who may give them some money. And so one time, I think one of my brother, Joseph, he kind of put a coin into the hat of that beggar, but he didn't come close enough. He just stayed a few feet away and throw a coin in, and my mother was make him go pick up that coin and walk back and introduce himself to the beggar and ask the beggar his name and give money and apologize. And so we all asked Mom, why did you do that? And she said, well, if you read and you listen to the gospel, those people, that's Jesus to you, Jesus sitting there, would you dare to throw a coin in? Well, that's him there. So we grew up like that with Mom, and Mom is very aware. Early in our life, we're very aware of the social justice. And even one day, you mentioned about my aunt. So
yes.
My aunt was had tuberculosis, and in those days, my grandfather died of tuberculosis too, because they didn't have antibiotics then. And so my grandfather from my dad's side is a catechist. So he teaches catechism and also brings the host to people who are shut in, who are sick.
Right.
And that's how he contracted tuberculosis. My aunt also helped my grandfather. And so she got tuberculosis, and she was very sick at home. And the parish priest, he normally will rely on some people to help him. You see, those days when the priest bring the Eucharist along the street, the priest walk. He didn't have car then. Walk to the house. There is an altar boy who rings the bell all along the street, so that anybody who hears that bell will stop and bow down because Jesus is passing through the street.
Oh, wow.
And then lots of people say, no, we don't want our kids to go and do that. They may contract tuberculosis. But then my mom said, well, to my brother Francis, own enough, said, it's your choice. You can go and help the priest and bring the host to aunt, to Aunt Xiao? And my brother said, absolutely.
Oh.
And later on, when my mom said, did I force you or did you? No, Mom, because remember, we have to bring the bread of life to people. And so for that, we have been brought up in that. That's the bread of life. It's not a symbol. It's the real bread of life. Yeah.
Right. Wow. So it was interesting because as I read a lot of what you wrote in this book, there was a place where you stated when your brother went off to minor seminary, there were people waiting for the boat along with your brother and his family. And there were people saying, yeah, he's not going to make it more than 2 weeks.
That's right.
So why? Why did people think he would not last in the seminary?
Well, you see in our Oriental culture, the boys are very important because they're the one who carry on the name of the family and so on and so forth. And so my eldest brother died at the age of 2. And so after that, it was my brother Francis, the cardinal. And so my grandmother, my grandmother lived with us until her death. So she spoiled him rotten. She really spoiled my brother. So then everybody knows that because after him was a sister, and so they didn't know whether we're going to have any more boys. So Francis was really, the center of the universe for my grandmother. And so when he left for seminary, he was 13, and my grandmother said, don't even look back, my dear, because you see me and your mother cried, and you may feel so bad you will not go. But then my dad said, we were so embarrassed because waiting for the boat and the train later on, everybody is looking at us and they all say, that boy, grandmother's cooking and grandmother's cakes and dessert, he's not going to last very long. And my dad say, we pretend we didn't hear anything because it was so embarrassing. But then so later on I asked my brother, I said, what do you eat in that seminary? He said, we were very poor. So maybe at a table of 8 seminarians, more like him, 13 years old, we just have rice and 4 salted eggs. So each egg is divided into 2, and we eat with rice.
Oh my!
And I said, did you miss grandma's cooking? And he said, oh yeah, but you know what? We have so many activities, and we were so much in love with what the missionaries taught us that it was so peaceful, and I just loved it.
Oh, that is amazing. Well, one of the things, Elisabeth, that you talk about, because obviously during this time in your country, the Indochina War was going on, and that was while he was in major seminary. So how did all of this upheaval, the Indochina War, how did that affect him in his training, and how did that affect your family?
It did. The minor seminary was attacked many times because the people who are pro the emperor think that these missionaries are in cahoots with the colonizer, the French colonizers. So then they attack wherever there are French people, including the seminarians, the seminary professors who are French. So it was attacked all the time. Apparently, they just, if they shoot over here, they go on the other side of the seminary, and they found that they were all protected somehow, and no seminarian died, despite many attacks. Then the Indochina continued for 1945, 1946, 7, and especially in the early 50s, and at the time he was in a major seminary in our city, and he could, witness all the
Sure.
destruction in our city from the cathedral to our house. And my dad, who is a builder, keep on repairing the roof, repairing the garage or this bedroom or the other bedroom. But
Right.
it seems as if we are all in unity with all the people who suffer, including
Yeah.
the soldiers who die on the battlefield. So life just continue. And in the morning, for example, we would hear siren because they're bombing somewhere. Then Mom would say, okay, today we will say our prayer and recite our rosary in our family chapel instead of going to church because there's siren out there. We don't know where they're going to bomb, you know?
Right.
And then
Right.
we just listen, and that's it.
Wow.
I don't remember that we were really desperate. There are days when, of course, the roads are blocked up, and there was no communication between the countryside, so we don't have fruit, we don't have chicken, we don't
Right.
have, the market is closed because the roads are bombarded by the planes, by the French planes, because the communists were invading those villages. So there were
Got
days
it.
like that when we just simply, I remember, just simply sardine and rice for weeks.
Yeah. Wow. Well, one of the things, because your brother was ordained then in 1953.
50, yeah.
Yeah, and he kind of had some health problems, and his first assignment, you said that he was kind of assigned to basically visit prisoners. And I found it very interesting because your brother opposed communism, but in his first assignment, he's assigned to a prison that basically is full of communists from this Indochina War.
Oh, yes, yes.
Can you share with us how he dealt with that?
He was ordained in June 53 and then sent right away in the north. The first parish he was sent to is the north, and the north is full of communists.
Right.
And at that time, and it was the year before the French people lost the battle with the communists at the big, huge, famous battle in Dien Bien Phu. And after that, the country was divided into two. So he was in that parish, and when he arrived, the French parish priest said to him, "Oh my God, my son, I asked for somebody to help me, but look at you. You are as skinny as a bamboo. So I'm not going to give you too much things to do, except you can visit the hospital and the prison, and administer the Eucharist to some who may be Catholic there." And so he said that at first he was so worried because there was no security guard. You were then, if you're beaten up, then it's just too bad. There's no security guard to say, okay, I'm going to sit here and guard you. But then my mother asked him, "Oh my God, are you worried? Be careful, and stay away or don't sit too close." But my brother said, "Mom, I go there and I don't see them as enemy or anything. I see them as people who suffer, and that I need to tell them that God loves them the way they are, and at first they curse and they swear at me, and they don't think about God who leaves them so miserable. But after a while, Mom, they decided that they want to hear more about that God who is on the cross, crucified for them and for us." And so he said, so it became extremely helpful that I go there to listen to their suffering and that they listen to the word of life, that God loves them. And we were so amazed.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's an amazing thing because he was always opposed to communism, and
Yeah.
he always took and he wouldn't, and we'll talk more about that probably in the second half of the show. But to see that becomes his first assignment to me was just amazing. And I want to ask you because in 1954, he develops tuberculosis, but
Tuberculosis, yes.
yeah, but he kind of experiences a miracle in all of this, doesn't he? Can you explain
Yes,
that?
that was the first miracle he experienced. Later on in Hanoi, in the hospital in Hanoi during prison time, he experienced another one.
Mm-hmm.
So he had tuberculosis, and the French priest, I remember the name, Father Richard, and Father Richard said, "Okay, we don't have anything here in this city, but I can make a application for you to go to the army hospital in Saigon, which is now Ho Chi Minh Ville." So then he sent my brother to Hospital Graal, in the army hospital. And so he went there, and the hospital was taken care of by St. Paul's sisters, French nuns.
Oh.
And so, so sister said, "Okay, you wait here, and we're going to let the surgeon know that you are here, and they will have to tell you which they have to make sure which lung they're going to operate on, and so it may take a couple of days before this thing can be arranged." And so the day that he's supposed to have an operation, the surgeon came, a French surgeon came and said, "Yes, we are sending you to the last X-ray to see how extensive your lungs are infected, whether both or only one." Mm-hmm. And so he went to X-ray, and then he came back and was resting in the hospital room. And towards the evening, he said, "Oh my God, I don't know when they're going to operate me." Mm-hmm. But then when it started to get a little dark, and then he was really praying, and the surgeon came and said to him, "C'est un miracle," in French. It's a miracle. I don't know how to explain to you, but the X-ray is clear. And we send it to many other colleagues to read it, and they say there is no trace of tuberculosis.
Wow.
And so, they do another blood test, and then they said, "You're free to leave." And so he telephoned our mother, who we are in Hue, another city, and said, I'm going home, Mom, because they say I'm cured. I have nothing in my lungs." And so that was, for us, it's a miracle because but later on he gets another miracle. To today we still have not found out who is this doctor who cured him in hiding at night.
Oh, wow. Well, before we go to break, we're about 4 minutes out, Elisabeth. So I just want to know, because in 56 he goes to Rome to study canon law. Now, was he? How did he get there? Did he request that? Was he chosen? How did that all work?
Oh, no, because when he was in minor seminary, the professor was Father John the Baptist, Euricia. Yeah. But later on, when he became a priest, that Father Euricia became bishop of the same city where we live in.
Okay.
So Bishop Euricia said that, "I know you as a student, I know you as a priest, I want you to go further. I can see much more in your life, so I want you to go to Rome." And that's when he, with the permission and the support, financial support of the mission of the missionary of France, Bishop Euricia sent him to Rome to do the canon law.
Got it. So he has, and again, I want to try to squeeze this in before break, Elisabeth. He has a premonition when he's on pilgrimage. I think it was to Lourdes. Yeah, can you tell us about that premonition he has?
Yeah, he went to Lourdes many times during his student time in Rome, and every time they will give him board and lodging if he listens to say Mass, and also help listen to confession, because he knows Italian and French. And so he listened to confession, and then, but before and after that, listening to confession, he would really sit at the grotto and pray. And then he said, every time he wants to abandon that thought, but every time the thought will come back, that, oh, I do not promise you much happiness on this earth, but you will be very happy with me. You will be with me, and I will be with you in paradise. And he said, no, that was for Lucy, not for me. Mm-hmm. And every time after hearing confession, he will go and pray for all those people he just gave absolution. And he will hear that again over and over and over. And he told my mother that, and my mother said, well, it is a message maybe for you, to prepare you from this time. So pay attention. If you hear it again, say, please, if it is for me, then you will have to protect me. You have to be with me. And that's how he gets that in. And that's why when he went to prison, he said, the way I was arrested was the feast of Our Lady. The day that I was freed, it was the feast of Our Lady. It was her all the time with me.
Oh, wow. And he always had that kind of devotion, too, to the Blessed Virgin.
Yeah,
well, we're
extremely.
coming up to the end of the first half, and I want to let our audience know that today our guest is Elisabeth Nguyen, and she is the sister to the Venerable Cardinal Francis Xavier Nguyen Van Thuan. I think I'm saying it right. And we're talking about a book that she has helped co-author, a biography of this amazing man, and the title is Man of Joy and Hope. And this is, I mean, it's amazing talking to Elisabeth and hearing these stories. And I know, like I told her, I had like 5 pages of questions. So I would encourage you to just get this book and learn about this amazing man. He is an intercessor that we need in our lives today. Come back on the other side of the break as we continue this interview, and we'll be talking more about his life in prison. You're listening to The Virtuous Life. I'm your host, Pat Odie Murray.
1 year after I graduated Catholic high school, I eloped to Las Vegas, Nevada. My husband was not Catholic, and at the time I didn't really think that it really mattered which church we went to, because we all loved God and we all loved Jesus, and that was the start of my journey out of the Catholic Church, where I remained out of the Catholic Church for over 30 years. When I started to read the Bible, I could see that our Catholic faith is steeped in Scripture. I could see some of the sacraments in Scripture. I could see some of the liturgy in Scripture. I learned that the Catholic Church was started by Jesus Christ, who gave the authority to Peter, and it has continued in succession down to the present day. And that was the start of my journey home to the Catholic Church.
If you've been away from the Catholic Church for whatever reason, we invite you to take another look. Visit CatholicsComeHome.org today.
The Catechism defines evangelization as the proclamation of Christ and His gospel by word and the testimony of life in fulfillment of Christ's command. But what does that look like in real life? It looks like the St. Paul Evangelization volunteers out on the street, sharing the good news with people in a non-confrontational way, handing out free sacramentals, listening to them, praying for them, teaching them, planting seeds, and letting the Holy Spirit make them grow. Visit streetevangelization.com and learn more so you can get involved in real-life evangelization.
Hi, and welcome back to The Virtuous Life. I'm your host, Pat Odie Murray. And today we have with us just an amazing woman from an amazing family. Her name is Elisabeth Nguyen. She is a sister to the Venerable Cardinal Francis Xavier Nguyen Van Thuan. And we're talking about, it's kind of a biography that she has co-authored on the Cardinal, and it's called Man of Joy and Hope. And if you missed the first half of the show, I'm just going to encourage you to go back and listen, because Elisabeth's stories about the way her family was raised gives us great insight, not only into her faith, but into the faith of this amazing man. So welcome back, Elisabeth. So glad you took the time to be with us today.
Thank you for having me.
Well, there is so many things I want to ask you, but I want to kind of jump into, because I want to spend a little more time on his time in prison. But before we get there, your brother, I want to get to when he was appointed bishop. And he chooses the motto of joy and hope for his motto, and will be a part of his crest. What made him choose those two words?
Because it was in a time of desperation. 1967 is the time when the Vietnam War was at the highest point. And so there is so much destruction, and the people coming in from the countryside that were ravished by war, they had to come in like refugees into the big city. And so there was, poverty, there was famine, everything, you name it. I mean, right now we can see that in Gaza, in, some Ukraine. And Vietnam was like that at that time. And so he said, no, we need to bring the good news to people. So it's through God, joy and hope. God is our hope, Jesus our hope, and therefore in him we have to bring joy to people. And that's why he chose that, and everybody was surprised and said, this time, and you pronounce that word joy and hope, but he totally believed that the good news has to be, taken to everyone.
Yeah. So it prior to this, then, wasn't your uncle Diem was president of South Vietnam, and he was assassinated, correct?
That's right. It was a very difficult time of the family as well. In 1963, a coup d'etat happened, supported by the American government at that time, and some Vietnamese general who wanted to be heavily paid, handsomely paid. So my uncle was assassinated along with his brother on the 5th of On Son's Day, November, and for that, it was a moment of sadness, but also a moment of encouragement for our family, because when my sister was sent to the army, called my sister who lived in that city at that time, go and pick up the body and to bury them. And when my sister arrived there with my cousin, they couldn't recognize the body because it was hot in Saigon, and the body was blown up and the flies came because it's so much blood. And so my sister called my mother, who's still in Hue, which is the center of Vietnam, and said, "Mom, how am I going to recognize that it's uncle?" And so my mother said, "Your uncle is a very devout Catholic, so look into, and he also is a Benedictine oblate, so look into his vest. Just pick up peel it off from on his skin and everything, but find that vest. Inside the pocket there will be an opaque looking rosary, and that, if you find that, it's uncle. And on the other uncle, look again, try to go through all the pockets, pants and shirt. He must have the prayer to the Holy Cross to prepare for death, for a holy death. So if you can find that, those are the two uncles of yours." So my sister found it.
Oh, and that's how she knew.
So it became a moment of sadness, but of relief and encouragement. that
Right.
in the last minute of their life, they were connected with God.
Wow.
And so my
Yeah.
mother kept the rosary all her life until she passed away, and she gave it to me, so I kept it now at home.
Oh, that's amazing. Well,
Yeah.
so all of this is part of kind of the formation of things that, like this even happened before he was appointed bishop, and he still chose the motto joy and hope, even in the
Yeah,
midst of all of that, even in your
that's right.
family. As you
Yeah.
look at his role as bishop, what do you think were his priorities during his time as bishop?
Oh, his priority in Nha Trang is the city by the sea, but it was that city belonged to the kingdom of the Cham, a tribe before, and so years, century before, the Vietnamese emperors took it from the Cham, a tribe. So his priority was, first of all, to restore the dignity of those tribes. And so
Okay.
he created right away the liturgy in the language for the Cham, and then a dictionary so that the Vietnamese understand, and there is a dialogue between the Cham and the Vietnamese.
Mm-hmm.
And the second thing is that he has to take care of the refugees who came in from all kinds of countryside because their houses were damaged by bombing. But more importantly also because his canon law, his thesis was like a PhD thesis. It was on the chaplaincy of army in the world, the international chaplaincy. So then he really took care of all those Vietnamese soldiers, but more so the American soldiers who got so lost, completely lost, disillusioned, and did not know what they are there to do.
Right.
And so one of the American cardinal asked my brother, "Can you take care of our soldiers?" And he said, "Absolutely."
Oh.
And so that was a huge priority for him because he said, these are the people, young, and did not know what they are in our country for.
Right. Wow, that's amazing. Well, one of the things that is mentioned in the book that your brother was very aware of how difficult it was for Christians in North Vietnam, but he just believed that the communists were going to come south and take over and invade and take over South Vietnam, and he tried to prepare people for that. How do you prepare people for that? What did he do?
I think he prepared people for dialogue because he said, we do not like the communism, but the communists are also children of God. So then he has to make them understand that these are the people who will be your neighbors. So you need to dialogue. And he said, we own missionaries, but it's only started with love. Love is a start, the beginning of evangelization. So we have to ask for the grace to forgive and to be able to simply move forward, and that's how you can bring the gospel to people.
Yeah.
And that's how he did a lot of justice and peace, reconciliation session with other bishops together. And he formed the youth to be able to form them to be really anchored in faith so that they understand that it's only through faith that you will be surviving all of these difficult years. And he started to build more. Those days, seminarians have to pay a certain amount of money to go in seminaries, but then he started to ask for funding from overseas so that seminarians do not have to pay. He wants to ordain more and more priests, and so that the priests if some are killed or some are in prison, there are some others left to manage the flock,
Yes, that
and
was
then
very smart.
Catholic school. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, he was very strong on the importance of family in his pastoral letters. He wrote
Yes.
about how important family is, and he denounced communism. Why did he see communism as such a threat to family?
Because communism is the motto of communism is no God, no family, and only the state. So then the human being is becoming a tool for the state. You work, but it's for the state. Everything you do is for the glory and building up the communist state. But there is no God, because God for communism is an opium. God is just an opium to make people feel that, oh yeah, there is paradise. No, there is none. And there is no family, because family can be an obstruction to the state. So you have to abandon all of those and only belong to the state. And there is no human dignity then, because human dignity is really equal to, for them, is equal to being, materialistically good for the state. But there is nothing about spiritual growth or happiness. And that's why he's absolutely against that.
Yeah, yeah. Well, Elisabeth, in 1975, then, he is appointed Archbishop Saigon, right? And he's not. Were people kind of worried that if he was Archbishop, this was going to create some problems for the church?
Yes, because the
church?
communists had a big meeting in the high school and university. And so the student asked them, why do you hate this bishop so much? And the answer is that because he knows how to fight us with his faith. So they do not like, because my brother always said, we don't like communism, but we love you, communists, because you are children of God. And they don't like that.
Yeah, they don't.
They don't like that at all.
Like you said earlier, then, that he is then arrested on the Feast of the Assumption, so that anniversary is coming up, in 1975, so not too long after he's made Archbishop. Why did they arrest him? What kind of charges did they bring against him?
So they say that because he is he has all of these Caritas and all of these overseas foreign funding for refugees. Therefore, he's a Westerner, that he is in cahoots with the Americans or with the white man. That's one thing. Secondly, is he comes from the family that has been fighting communism. That's the second thing.
Right.
And the third thing is that he is the youngest of the bishop, and he was the head of the Episcopal Conference of Bishop in Vietnam, and that he is going to be a strong leader for people to go against them. So all of those.
All of those things. So tell us about his time in prison, because he spent 13 years in prison, and he was being moved all the time. Some of it was in solitary confinement. Tell us a little bit about how this challenged him, how it challenged his faith, how his faith helped him, and how did the family know what was going on during this time? Give us some insights into those things.
Yeah, when he came out from prison, we asked him what was the harshest time that you had. And he said that, it's providential that right at quite the beginning of my prison time, after I've been in house arrest in Cai Vong, and then in 76, I was for a few months in isolation cell, and that was the harshest time. Really, really, really bad, and he nearly died. And he said, God put me in that situation to prepare me for the years ahead. And I said, how? We all said, how did he prepare you? You were nearly dead. He said, yes, I was put in an isolation cell, and no window, nothing. And I sleep on the cement floor with only one hole for me to put my nose to breathe in the air from outside. And so they feed me with all kinds of salty food, but if you are so hungry, you eat. And then you have to drink. But then they wouldn't let you out to go and relieve yourself. So therefore, you dirty yourself day after day. And then after a few days, they will send a woman guard to come in with a hose and hose you down and call you by all kinds of names, you know. You are a bishop and you live like an animal. Look at you, how dirty you are, and so on. And he said day after day, he was really very frustrated and desperately asking, why am I so filled with hate? I'm supposed to be a person asking people to forgive, and I'm so filled with hate. How could it be? God, where am I now? Where are you? And he said one night on his really the bottom of desperation, and he said, a voice tell him, no, you are full of love because I love you. And so you always pray in front of my cross. Now, all of those evil, all of those suffering, hatred, that was what I carry on my cross. So you don't recognize me in all of this? Then tomorrow, when that lady comes in, look at her. Look at the hatred in her eyes and see my crucified face in there. That's my cross. Say something. Do something if you recognize me. So he suddenly said, yes, I forgot about the cross. And that all of that hatred and evilness, God carried it on his cross. And did I, on this time, refuse to carry with him? So that morning, the lady came in and he took on the courage and say, you know, lady, I have nothing against you personally. And you, I know you don't have it against me because we don't know each other. But it is your job to be doing all this to me, and it is my position as a victim, prisoner. And so we are facing this situation against our will. And he said, the moment that he's trying to say that, the lady's face was completely changed. There is that softness in her face. And never again she is harsh with him, and she was able to let him out to relieve himself. And he said, because I did recognize Jesus crucified, I recognize the cross in this situation. And after that, I have found my serenity, and I have been purified because I did not recognize the cross in my suffering.
That is amazing. I mean, and you know, that was one of the things, Elisabeth, as I read this book and followed these 13 years that you talk about of his imprisonment, is everywhere he was imprisoned, whoever he came in contact with seemed to be transformed by his love, versus you could tell he wasn't a man who hated his captors. It was an amazing thing.
Yes, I was so amazed because at the closure of the course of beatification, when they call it closure, it means when they have all the documents ready, then they seal them all and they deliver it to the congregation of canonization. They call it the closure event. So at that closure event in 2013. 1 minute. Yeah, 2013. So the guard who guarded him, the prison guard, and then the guy who guarded him in the house arrest, all three of them came to give witness in Rome. And then I took the Cardinal Nguyen, who was then president of Justice and Peace, wanted to ask them a few things about those times that they guarded my brother. So I took them in because I have to translate part of it to Cardinal Nguyen. And Cardinal Nguyen asked Mr. Kong. Mr. Kong was the policeman who guarded him in the year just before his release. He guarded him in the isolation area, and who slept in the same room with him and who guarded him day and night. And so Mr. Cardinal asked, Mr. Could you let me know a few things that you remember well of your friend? And Mr. Kong said, yes, we know that there is a Jesus and he exists, because otherwise this guy wouldn't have loved us, because he said Jesus taught him to love us. And I was just totally shocked.
Yeah.
Absolutely shocked,
Yeah. Yeah.
And I ran out when they arrived, hoping to pay the taxi for them, because I thought that they would know how to say a couple of words with the taxi man. But then when I arrived, they already had paid. And I said, hey, Mr. Kong, how did you manage? And he said, oh, we remember some Italian words that your brother taught us in prison.
Really? Oh, I'll tell you.
I was so amazed. Yeah.
It is. Yeah. I mean,
it is.
It's an amazing, his life is just amazing. And I just want to give the last couple of things. We're about 4 minutes out from closing out this show, Elisabeth. But he becomes a cardinal, is created a cardinal in 2001, and he dies in 2002. Where is this beatification process at right now? He was named venerable, right?
Yeah, he was named venerable in 2017.
Okay.
And now they are still, processing through whether they accept this miracle or the other miracle, because it has to be absolutely certain medically that it was a miracle.
Right.
So we don't really know at what time, when.
Sure.
Some people wanted the church to declare him a white martyr, because if you are a martyr, you don't need miracle. A white martyr means that you didn't die, but you did suffer for the faith.
For the faith,
but
yes.
But I think most of them, the majority in the Vatican, I think prefer that he is declared beatified as a confessor, because he has taught and he has written so much to teach people. So it's better to wait for a miracle, and that way he became a saint, but a confessor, because he is the one who is teaching rather than just simply, died or whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
So Elisabeth, what has been published of his works thus far?
Whatever is published is only what he has written, but and a few meditations that he has written in prison have been published.
Okay.
But now that he has become venerable, it means we have permission now to start compiling all other meditation and poems and songs that he has, and letters that he sent home, or that he sent to faithful during his time of prison. So we are doing all of that now to hopefully publish that. And one of the meditation that I would love to finish, to publish, is the logic of the cross. And he's talking very much about that Jesus crucified, and why is it that the cross is that we live by, the logic of the cross. And it is very moving, because he struggled with that all the
Oh, yeah.
time in prison. But he eventually came to embrace the cross as his friend. And he said,
Right.
I accept to be a brother of a condemned. I accept to be the person who will be crucified on that same cross. And it is a long struggle, and the whole meditation was struggle until he reached the point of absolutely embracing that Jesus crucified.
Oh, Elisabeth,
and
I hope you can.
And we are doing that in many languages, hoping that if the French publisher get it, accept to publish, we will be happy. If the English one, like Ignatius, will be happy. And so we're doing that in both Vietnamese, in 3 languages, English, French, and Vietnamese.
Wonderful.
Because he wrote it in Vietnamese, but we have to retype it and, all kinds of things before you could publish. And I'm hoping that Ignatius Press will be willing to publish for us.
Oh, I hope so too, because I would love to read them. So let me tell, we are at the end of the show, Elisabeth. You have been a delightful guest. I want our audience to know our guest today was Elisabeth Nguyen, and as she talked about her brother, the Venerable Cardinal Francis Xavier Nguyen Van Thuan, and talked about a book that she has co-authored, Man of Joy, Man of Hope. And I just want to close with this extracts from a prayer that the Cardinal composed, and it's in the book. So let us pray this prayer with all our hearts. Jesus, I will not wait. I will live the present moment, filling it to the brim with love. My life is made of millions of seconds united to each other. If I live every minute perfectly, my life will be holy. Jesus, I love you, and my life is always a new and eternal covenant with you. Every minute I want to sing with your church. So let's go forth and be people of joy and hope. You've been listening to The Virtuous Life. I'm your host, Pat Odie Murray.